Okay, Your Worship, we're live.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk, and our apologies to the general public. We're a few minutes behind a technical glitch, but that is solved thanks to the good work of our staff. So we'll call this meeting to order. This is our regular February 13, 2025, 10 a.m. council meeting, and I'll look to Councillor DeLeo for the land acknowledgement. Councillor DeLeo?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Good morning, everyone. The town of Wasaga Beach acknowledges that it is located upon the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people of the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge that the people of the Wyandot Nation also inhabited these lands. We acknowledge that these nations were sovereign nations existing before the arrival of settlers. We respect the spiritual interconnection among these nations to the land and to the water. We also acknowledge that waterways near us have a long history predating European arrival. Since time immemorial, waterways were the lifeblood of the indigenous people by trade and hunting routes. We are dedicated to inclusivity of First Nation, Inuit and Métis people in our future stewardship of the land and the longest freshwater beach in the world. In the spirit of conciliation, we welcome the opportunity of learning to be sustainable caretakers of the land and waterways for all future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Megwitch. Councillor, moving on to item number 2, proclamations. We have no proclamations today. And item number 3 is disclosure of pecuniary interest. I have none before me at this time. If at some point throughout the meeting you feel you have a pecuniary interest, please let us know at that time. Item number 4 is the adoption of the agenda. Recommended motion that the contents of the agenda for February 13, 2025 be approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell and seconded by Councillor Belanger. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And I'm going to look to our clerk for a slight change here. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. We do have a delegation today pertaining to item 10.6, the Municipal Service Corporation Beachfront Development. Accordingly, we will move that report up and debate that right after that delegation. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And now moving on to item number 5, the approval of the minutes. The motion is that the minutes of the special council meeting held January 30th, 2025 be adopted as circulated. Any questions or comments on those minutes? Seeing none, could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor White, seconded by Councillor Timms. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Item number 5.2, a recommended motion is the minutes of the regular council meeting held January 30th, 2025 be adopted as circulated. Questions or comments on those minutes? Seeing none, a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Ego, seconded by Councillor DeLeo. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Item number 6 is public meetings, and there are no public meetings today. Item number 7, we have presentations. 7.1 is the Deputy Fire Chief here today, Dan Bell, to speak to us about Camp Mount Molly. So good morning, Deputy, and welcome. Looking dapper as ever. The floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, good morning, everyone. Through you, Your Worship. I just want to provide Council with a quick update as to Camp Molly. We had numerous discussions and we have council support. I just want to give you an update as to tell you how we're making out with our Camp Molly that we're going to be hosting. For those of you that don't know, the program steers toward young female high school students who may be interested in pursuing a career in emergency services or just a way to boost their self-confidence. I'm going to share my screen here. Can everyone see that?
Looks like it's coming up here.
Excellent.
There we go. We can see it now.
Excellent. So our Camp Molly Wasaga Beach is going to be starting on Thursday, June 5th and culminate with the graduation that's going to happen on Sunday, June 8th. The camp will be running from 8 to 4:30 on every day. So we're going to have some long days and we're going to have some tired young ladies at the end of it. But apparently it's an amazing experience for everyone, and they're gonna sleep well at night. I can guarantee you that. This is also going to coincide with our growing open house that we host the first Saturday of the month, and so it's going to be an amazing opportunity for our residents who come to see the open house to be able to see the students participating in some of the evolutions. So some of the training evolutions that we've arranged, and I've been working with Camp Molly staff to do some fire fire suppression techniques. We're going to be hosting the Mobile Live Fire Training Unit in Wasaga Beach at the same time, which is from the Terra Fire Marshal's office, which will give them the opportunity to experience some live fire training. They'll be able to feel a bit of heat. We're not going to actually throw them into the live fire, but we're going to be able to smoke out the building and adjust it and operate it as normal as we train our own staff. Auto extrication, the young ladies are going to be doing auto extrication, communications, fire investigations, medical training, some firefighter survival, hydrants, hoses, and ladders. Other stuff we're going to do, and we have a unique opportunity partnering with Beausoleil First Nations Fire to conduct some water rescue scenarios on the Friday out on the bay with the students. We're going to have some of our staff performing the rescues, and I think with having the water right here, it's a unique opportunity for them to be out and be able to go out on the water and observe our staff doing the fire rescues, the water rescues. So I think it's an amazing experience, and Camp Molly staff are very, very excited about that as well. This is an experience that they haven't had to this point, and they're not going to be able to get the same experience as they will at our camp this year. So we're going to be doing forcible entry, ground ladders, all the stuff, just very, very short snippets, and everyone's going to be getting hands-on experience with the program. This is going to be truly a unique experience for the young ladies. As it all builds up, they compete in a combat challenge. And if you've ever seen them on TV, they're very, very stressful and strenuous physically, but apparently it's the highlight for the young ladies. So we'll be conducting the combat challenge here at Station 1, along with all the other scenarios are going to be here at the station. All this is going to end with a graduation. We do have a formal graduation that Camp Molly puts on, and we're going to host here at the station. And I'm going to be sending in invitations for mayor and council to please attend the opening ceremony or at any point stopping in. But certainly we would love to see you at the graduation on the Sunday afternoon. Like I said, I'm going to forward those invitations off to mayor and council. I'm also going to, in the next few weeks, I'm going to be soliciting some of our corporate partners for some financial assistance. It does cost money to run this camp. We have lunches, and each camper receives a water bottle and T-shirts and stuff like that, snacks, water, and so I'm going to be soliciting for some corporate sponsorships. So we are very, very excited to be able to host that in Wasaga Beach this year, and we're looking forward to it. We know it's going to be a long week, but it's going to absolutely be an amazing experience for these young ladies, and hopefully we steer them into being Wasaga Beach firefighters at some point. That's all I have for my presentation. Open to any questions.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief, and congratulations to you and the team for, making this happen here in Wasaga Beach. This is going to be a very exciting time, I'm sure. So I'll open the floor now to questions, and we have Councillor Timms.
Thank you, Your Worship. I was wondering, Deputy Chief, how do the women apply for this camp?
If they visit the site, Camp Molly, we're getting ready now to put out our social media blitz and let everyone know. We're going to send notices to the surrounding high schools, so Elmvale, Clearview, Collingwood, all the high schools, to let them know that we're doing that. I will let you know they activated the website a couple of weeks ago, and I already have 16 applications from young women who want to attend. We're going to be putting together a group of to decide who gets to come or not, and we're going to do that internally, and we're going to take a focus for young ladies who live in the immediate area, or a high school student within the area. So if campmolly.ca is the website that they're going to visit, and like I said, we're gonna pump this out through our social media channels, as well as posters and stuff for each high school.
What is the age range?
They're high school students, anywhere from grade 9 to grade 12. And I can tell you, I've already got applications for grade 9 students and up to grade 12. And as well, I've already had a lot of people interested in becoming volunteers and helping us out. So we're absolutely going to lean on the volunteers and our staff here. And we're looking for an amazing experience, and we will absolutely be turning people away, but it's all part of the process. So.
Thank you. Sounds wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eagle?
Thank you, through your mayor, and thank you, Deputy Chief. That's very exciting to be hosting this for Wasaga Beach. You pretty much answered my questions through Councillor Timms, but how many are able to attend? What's
Thank you. Through your mayor, we're going to be accepting 30 students. And I say students, and Camp Molly gets mad at me when I call them students, but they're students to me. And we're going to be up to 30 in order to participate. We're going to have 5 platoons of 6 young ladies in each one, and they're going to be broken up and doing different scenarios throughout the day. So our cap is self-imposed cap is 30 students.
okay? Thank you very much. Thanks.
you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Ego. Any other further questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Snell?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wondering, Deputy Chief, what sort of sponsorship level are you looking for? Like, what's the amount, or what are the items, or how do people, businesses, individuals get involved in that side?
Thank you. We're looking, it costs about $10,000 in order to finance the camp. And again, that's everything from in-kind donations of snacks and lunches and stuff like that. There is a cash requirement because we are required to order the water bottles and t-shirts through a licensed supplier through Camp Molly. So in all, we're looking for around $10,000 of corporate sponsorships and partnerships, which we will absolutely recognize. Anyone who does donate, we will invite to the graduation in order for the young ladies and Wasaga Beach to thank them for their donations.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we do have a motion that the presentation by Deputy Fire Chief to Council pertaining to Camp Molly be received as information. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Timms and seconded by Councillor Belanger. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Moving on now to the next item, under 8 is delegations, and we have Deborah Grant here with respect to feral cat spay and neuter program, and I understand, or I can see that Debbie is online. There she is. Good morning, Debbie. The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Mayor and councilors. I'll get myself with the picture here. I'm bringing forward today a matter of concern, so thank you very much for giving us this opportunity for a delegation. I'm here today to bring a matter of concern before council, which is a situation which affects our neighborhood. That's a few of us that are coming forward here, but my partner in this today, Deanna Lindsay, was unable to attend. She was called in for work, medical work. We live on 31st Street North, and the situation appears to mainly affect 30th Street North and 31st Street North. We have noted a continued increase in the number of feral cats in the neighborhood. The number is likely in the range of 20. The issue is they are reproducing, of course, which is going to create an even bigger issue. You might ask, how do the cats survive in the winter, especially? We do happen to have several good-hearted individuals who assist the cats by supplementing them with food in the winter. Please remember, these are the same kind of people who do community work and contribute where need is seen. These feral cats pose a threat of spreading disease, either directly or indirectly, to our resident domestic pets, as well as transmitting zoonotic diseases, which is animal to human transmission, like rabies, toxoplasmosis, and others. With the number of visitors to Wasaga Beach, and particularly our area, which is Park 5, Beach 5, we hope the town will help to manage and mitigate this risk. In the past, and I think this would be prior to COVID, to be honest, in the past the town has contributed to a feral cat spaying neutering program in cooperation with Georgian Triangle Humane Society or a local vet. This was discontinued at some point. We would ask that this program be reinstated for 2025, at least for this year, to aid in resolving the growing problem. Several of us in the neighborhood are willing to trap the cats in a humane manner for the purpose of spaying, neutering, vaccinating, or deworming for release again to their environment. It should help alleviate the problem. Sometimes they can be found more permanent homes, so some of the feral cats with these people who are feeding them do show that they could become more domesticated and can be adopted. Not all, but some. Sometimes they can be found to be more permanent homes, but if not, at least there would not be multiple litters being born. We ask this respectfully, as it would be a benefit to the neighborhood, and as we live in a tourist area of Wasaga Beach, close to Georgian Bay and Beach 5, Park 5. It would also not become an issue with the visiting picnicking tourists in the summer. We are a dedicated group of women who try to make our neighborhood appealing, are concerned with the well-being of others, including the animal population. We're willing to do our best to capture the cats, take them to the participating vet, and we don't have anyone in mind. That would be a matter of, us going out and trying to get a vet to participate and give a discounted kind of rate, or the Georgian Humane Triangle Society, and return the animals to their environment. Please consider setting aside some funds to solve this problem. Thank you for your time and attention to the request. And that's from myself, Deborah Grant, and Deanna Lindsay. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Good to see you as always, and I'll open the floor to questions or comments. Councillor Leo.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for being here. It's a great thing that you guys do. I used to help out in Toronto with the catch and release programs as well. And I remember when you were here, when the program was active here in Wasaga Beach, I thought it was the best thing, and I'm all for it. People need to also understand, because I read your letter, and truthfully in your letter, it only stated what these feral cats do to people, to their pets, and to the tourists. It mentioned nothing how these cats are actually, how they survive outdoors. Like a lot of them, they starve to death. Very territorial, so there's a lot of fights that go on. What else do they have here? Like they get sick. So, I mean, it's a sad thing for these cats as well as for the people. But in this letter, I read nothing of the compassion there for them. So that kind of like threw me back. So if you didn't speak, this letter is like, but not very compassionate. But I do get what you're doing, and I appreciate the people that feed them, because I used to also feed feral. And a lot of them, the ones that are being fed, you are correct. They can be tamed down and find good homes. So saying all that, I'm in full support, 100%, to help out. But it's also a lot to help out the cats.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeLeo, and Councillor Ego is next.
Thank you, and through your worship, thank you, Debbie, very much for your presentation. Another thought came to my mind while you were speaking, which I hadn't thought when I read your report, and I just think of the animals that are outside. I have a dog, and we let them out, and I'm concerned now that the feral cats, I think, could attract coyotes to the area. I could be wrong on that, but it was just something that came to my mind, that we're all conscious to keep our animals in when we're on rural properties or near the woods, which we have ample of, thank goodness, in Wasaga Beach. So I think that is something that we may wish to take into this presentation as well. So I do support that we ask for a staff report on the cost, and that we look at implementing this catch and release program again. And thank you for your presentation.
Thank you, Councillor. And I'll just ask Councillor members after you speak to please remember to put your hand back down. Councillor White is next.
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate the opportunity. And thanks again, Debbie, for your presentation. I was speaking with Dr. Holly Spring at the vet clinic, our new vet clinic there the other day, and she had mentioned to me that there is an alarming concern regarding rabies in our community. I was having my dog in there, and she was mentioning that as part of the vaccination routine, and that's a lot of skunks and feral cats are the are the transmitters of that. So I'm going to add that to the list of things that need to be addressed, but certainly bringing in these cats and certainly getting them the spay and neuter that they need, but also maybe opening a discussion to the rabies vaccine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Belanger?
Yes, thank you through the mayor. Certainly, I'm very supportive, but would this not be something that could be applied to our grant program? Certainly, if we received grant requests to support this, I would certainly support it. Again, I'm not sure on what kind of amounts of money they're looking for in total, but the funding for a grant can go up to $5,000.
Thank you, Councillor. Rachel, did you want to speak to this issue before I continue on with questions from Council?
Yes, thank you, and through your worship. So after doing a little bit of digging, I find that the department previously allocated about $2,000 each year for this program. What happened was it remained unused since 2021. So the last time that the funds were used for this program was in 2020, and that's when the decision was made to eliminate the program. However, based on what we're hearing today, if council supports the program to be reinstated, staff could certainly reallocate the $2,000 required funding from other in-year budget items to assist with the program this year. And that's something that could happen relatively quickly to ensure that we are, back on track, reinstating the program and able to assist as much as we can. And if we do allocate about $2,000, speaking with the Georgian Triangle Humane Society itself, it looks like they work directly with colony caretakers. And so if they bring a cat in, it's about $50, which includes, the spay and neuter, rabies vaccination, and an ear tip to make sure that we can keep track of, who has been already dealt with and who hasn't been. And that would make sure that 40 cats, at least for this year, could be taken care of.
And to be clear, when you say who has been dealt with, we're talking cats, not humans, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you, Rachel. All right, I was going to speak to that, but I'll finish with council first, and then I will speak to it as well. Any other questions or comments from members of council? All right, seeing none, I do recall in my last term of council, we started this program, and it did work quite well. We had a major feral cat issue throughout Wasaga Beach at that time. But I hear what you're saying, Rachel, if it wasn't being used. So I think what I'm hearing from the majority of council here anyway is that council would be in support of reinstating that funding so as that we could move forward. So what I'll do, we do have a motion here to receive this information, but I'm going to look to our clerk for an amendment to that for funding. So, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have prepared a motion based on the conversation that the delegation by Deborah Grant to council pertaining to a feral cat spay and neuter program be received. That staff be directed to reinstate the spay and neuter program for 2025 in the amount of $2,000 funded from the current approved budget.
All right, thank you very much. And I guess the only thing I would say is that perhaps we want to be clear with that the spay and neuter program then is working through the the Georgian Triangle Humane Society. That's where we get the $50 deal. We don't want to see bills coming in of $200 or $300 or $400 because that would chew this fund up quite quickly. So do we need to add that to the motion?
Thank you, Your Worship. Administration will be working with the Humane Society to ensure that the program does just that the funding would be allocated to the Humane Society.
All right, and so then we want to do some kind of information and programming around that, some communication so that the public is aware of that as well. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before I go to call the question, I'm just going to go to our CAO, Andrew. Good morning.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to remind council that we are trying to direct all grant application, all grant funding through the grants program. A staff team is currently reviewing all of the applications that have come in. It's fine if council wants to go ahead and approve this, but in the future, I think we'd prefer not to have one-off decisions like this made and try and consolidate it through that grant program so that we're looking at all funding in a comprehensive manner.
All right. Thank you very much, Andrew, for that. All right, you've heard the question from the clerk, the amended question. Can I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? This is moved by Councillor Tim, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That motion carries. Great job, Debbie.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.
I hope it will be a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care now. All right, moving on in the agenda tonight, item number 8.2, as Leslie R. Farkas is here today, has some questions with respect to the Municipal Services Corporation beachfront development. So I see Les is there online. Good morning, Les. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everyone's doing very well this fine snowy morning. Thank you for the opportunity to address the very important issue of the creation of the MSC dealing with the beachfront real estate management. I would first like to very clearly state that I am all for beachfront improvement, and I know we're all tired of waiting and all want something now. I mean, yes, indeed, we all want a beachfront to be proud of, and we're all tired of waiting for it, and I am all in for creating the vision that our community would like to see. That being said, please allow me to draw your attention to the public consultation on the business case for the MSC. The current report suggests that there are only 4 respondents. However, I did respond, and I did not see my response listed in the report. In fact, I can say that I know of multiple people who sent in responses that are not listed in the report as well. There are also quite a few reports of people's emails bouncing back when attempting to respond with their input. Now, the town CAO addressed the issue over the weekend on social media and is quoted from a social media response to a comment stating, "It could be our IT department blocks fake or suspicious names. I'll look into it. Enjoy the weekend." I hope it has been looked into, but whatever the reason, it seems the consultation process was a bit of a miss. And I would like to suggest that the consultation period and process be recommenced for at least an additional 10 days to allow the residents to express their opinions on this subject. I would also highly recommend that the town push out this public consultation notice across all channels, including their social media, and of course a press release, all done in a very specific way mentioning the creation of the MSC, the business case, and the residents' opportunities to comment on them. Even perhaps allow for an in-person public consultation similar to what was done for the firework issue. The business case itself references both previous appraisals and previously proposed beachfront deals. In fact, both the appraisals and previous offers from the developers are referenced as comparators to demonstrate the merit of the proposal. As such, I would like to make a request that the previous offers, their specific details, including but not limited to the total DCs and future tax revenues, and the appraisals mentioned in the business case be made available to the public during this consultation period. This would allow the public to properly gauge the merit of the deal in comparison to the previous offers and appraisals as expressed by the author, and give a much clearer view to the residents. Now, in respect to the JV, I understand that the author has come up with a number of approximately 5 to 11 million, which includes 2 million for the agreement of purchase and sale for the hotel that will be exclusively owned by Sunray. This would indicate that the author's expected revenue from the 15% of the net generated through the JV is going to be approximately 3 to 9 million. I am curious how the author arrived at this estimate. Perhaps a demonstration of how it was calculated should be included in the business case study. It is also important to note that it is widely accepted as fact that generally businesses take 3 to 5 years to show any kind of a profit, to show a positive net. And that's because of the deduction of high startup costs over the first few years. And that brings me to my next question as to the duration of the JV and what that is. And I really would like to add that it's my personal opinion, we should be getting at least 15% of the gross rather than the net, as we are providing a very large percentage of the assets in this deal. Another question would be, will development charges be deferred for Sunray? And if so, are they going to be paying interest for that? Now, to be very clear, In my opinion, this issue has very many points of concerns for me, including underground parking and a vast many others. However, I'm going to leave it at that for the moment, but I would just like to add that in light of the information I've just presented, I feel it would be irresponsible for council to approve the MSC at this time without proper public consultation and a more complete and comprehensive business case.
Thank you very much, Les. And I'll just, if council has any questions or comments for Les, I would say go ahead. If your questions or comments are with respect to the next item, which is the report, then I would say hold those questions for the report. Any questions or comments of Mr. Farkas here? Councillor Belanger, go ahead.
Yeah, through the mayor, just a clarification. When we talk about the business taking 3 to 5 years, I believe the JV was on the auxiliary buildings that would be sold. They're not operating as a business. It would be a case of as those units are sold that we retain 15%. Maybe the CAO could speak to that, just to clarify.
Absolutely. Mr. CAO?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Belanger, through Mr. Mayor. Absolutely. And Mr. Farkas, I thank you for coming forward and making your deputation. I commend you for doing that. I did reach out to Mr. Farkas and indicate I would be happy to sit down with him and walk through details. It's clear to me on the weekend, the comments that you were making on social media and the comments that you're making here today, that you're not understanding the intricacies of the deal. You're not understanding the deal in its totality. I have offered to sit down with you. That offer is still on the table. The hotel is not part of the JV.
I am aware of that. I'm sorry to interrupt. I am aware that's part of it. Yes, that's why I separated it.
Excuse me.
If I could finish, Mr. Farkas.
Yeah, Mr. Farkas, you had your opportunity. We're going to let staff and council ask their questions or make their comments now. Thank you.
The 15% profit sharing has nothing to do with the hotel proper. That is on the ancillary hotel buildings only. The municipality and quite frankly Sunray do not want the municipality involved in the operations of a hotel. You are correct that startup for a new hotel, a new premium hotel, the first 5 years are tough. I anticipate that the first 5 years for this hotel may or may not be tough, but we have had those discussions. The ancillary buildings do not have those concerns. It's a for sale product. There will be for sale commercial space. We're not overly concerned about that. That has nothing to do with the JV. That has nothing to do with impacts to the municipality's profit share. So again, we're talking apples and oranges there. As well, your understanding of the real estate deal is incorrect. It is not $2 million for the hotel proper. It is $2 million base rate for the entirety of the site. Each portion will be prorated according to the geographic land area. There is a discount for the hotel site. Absolutely, there is. That is being done through the community improvement plan that was enacted back in 2017 in anticipation of these types of scenarios. So the profit sharing, the 15% share of profits, is on top of that base land value. So I can stop it. Oh, sorry, your comment about DCs. No, DCs are not deferred with Sunray. They will be paid at time of building permit. I think those were the key things, but happy to answer any more questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Councillor White?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And thank you again, Mr. Farkas, for coming today. This is a very important topic, and I do feel like the messaging on this is very, very important because it is a complex issue. And as we just heard from Mr. Farkas and the CAO, it's very easy to get misled on this. I have also read some social media comments over the weekend that were wickedly inaccurate. So I guess my comment is that we should take the opportunity as the town to really clarify in very simple way what's going on here and how this benefits the town, the residents, and what the skin in the game is for the developer, to make sure that this misinformation doesn't turn into to sandbagging this whole plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments from members of council or staff? All right, seeing none, I'll just make a couple of comments. I guess what I'll start with is, first of all, is thank you, Mr. Farkas, for coming forward and asking your questions today. We appreciate that, and we'll be happy to answer any further questions you may have, as well as any questions coming from other members of the public. The town of Wasaga Beach follows a very stringent process with respect to how we deal with not only this project, but any project, and we follow the same policies, the same procedures, in the same style for every project. This is no different. And I can tell you that there will always be people who will agree and people who will disagree. My concern is absolutely making sure that we're hearing from everybody that wants to be heard, and that we are answering all the questions that are asked to the best of our ability, and that we are being open and transparent. But I can tell you that questions will never quit being asked at any time, so we could carry this process on till the cows come home. And that's why we have specific policies and procedures in place as to how we deal with not only this, but any other issues that we deal with in the municipality. No different than any other municipality. What is concerning to me is the disinformation, the blatant misinformation being put out there on social media, but it's social media, so it is what it is. I'm at a point in my political career where social media doesn't hold a lot of weight for me. It is simply a place for people who are wanting to put a point across or to create a point that isn't there to do so. And it is what it is. There are numbers put out last week that the cost of Beach Drive and this development is $40 million or in that realm. I don't know where that number comes from. The cost of Beach Drive is somewhere between $19 and $21 million, of which $10.9 million we've now received from the province of Ontario. Why? Because they believe in what we're doing. And I am confident in those numbers. So we will receive this information and everything that you've asked and talked and indicated. Staff will no doubt be letting council know their thoughts and where they believe we should go from next on this. But I want to thank you for your time for coming out today. We do have a resolution that the delegation by Leslie. A resolution that the delegation by Leslie R. Farkas to council pertaining to item number 10.6, Municipal Services Corporation Beachfront Development, be received. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor DeLeo, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. All in favor? That carries unanimously. All right, moving on then to the Municipal Services Corporation Beachfront Development. This item was pulled by Councillor White and Councillor Eagle, and so I'll look to Councillor White for your questions and or comments. Councillor White?
Sorry, this was for the beachfront development. I think my comments are pretty much the same as before. I feel like there's some messaging that needs to be addressed to the community to better understand what's going on here and the numbers. And I know that is forthcoming, but I do feel like getting that out in the head of this discussion in council is imperative as much as we can.
Thank you very much, Councillor White. Councillor Eagle?
Yes, thank you. Through your worship. Sorry, I did not pull this, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to look now to Councillor DeLeo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there going to be a public consultation on this topic for the people to have an input?
I'll look to our CAO, Andrew, for that. Andrew?
I think that's what we've been doing for the past week or so. To Mr. Farkas's earlier comment, I did confirm with IT. My comment to the one individual on the weekend, it was a rather suspicious name, and I had a suspicion that might get bounced back by IT. A couple of people did indicate they had some issues, but my name was copied on the Engage Wasaga site, and they were able to click on mine and submit their comments. So the intention is no, not to have any further community engagement on this. The legislation is very clear that what we have done meets the requirement here. If I could, I wanted to address two comments, Mr. Mayor, if that's okay with you. Yeah, so the first is there seems to be concern about the creation of an MSC. I want the community to understand this is not new. Communities have been doing this for decades. Virtually every city, municipality in the province of the country has one form or another. If you go to a parking structure in any big city that's municipally owned, typically those are municipal services corporation because they generate positive revenue. In our small town of Wasaga Beach, we have had a municipal services corporation for decades. It's called Wasaga Distribution. So this is not new for our community. I am not hearing concerns or complaints about lack of transparency from Wasaga Distribution. What we are proposing for the beachfront MSC will actually be much more transparent than Wasaga Distribution currently is. We're actually proposing to have all of council sit as the board of directors. There will be regular updates to council in the public about activities. So the trying to create fear about this structure, again, it's something we have interacted with for decades. Other comments are being made about liability and exposure of taxpayers' dollars. That is simply not true. The way this is structured as a joint venture, a JV, is intentionally so that it limits exposure. A municipality, our exposure is limited to what we contribute to the deal. That's simply a parcel of land. We are not on the hook for anything development related pertaining to the building's construction. And that's going to be in the tens of millions of dollars that Sunray Development is going to be footing the bill for. We are not involved in any of that. Our contribution is a piece of land, and it's going to be phased. So it's going to be a small piece of land, phase one, small piece of land, phase two. And if they don't do their job properly in phase one, you don't move on to phase two. So there are all kinds of controls that are built into this process. The numbers that were put forward in the business case are accurate. It references previous numbers that were portrayed as being good deals at the time for the beachfront. We're far exceeding those in terms of return on investment. So I feel very strongly that this is an appropriate deal for the municipality, appropriate deal for council. And again, a community improvement plan was put into place in 2017 in anticipation of these kinds of transactions. Quite frankly, a premium brand hotel on our beachfront is going to change the economy of Wasaga Beach. It's going to change our tourism potential. If you're ever going to entertain doing things a little out of the box, this is the time that you do it. I believe a JV in this situation is entirely appropriate. And to the mayor's comment earlier, we could drag the community consultation on for months here if we wanted to. But in this case, given that we already have a track record of working with an MSC for decades, I believe the risk is low. I believe that we should proceed. We cannot finalize the deal with Sunray until this is implemented. It's a condition of the deal. So I would recommend proceeding. And I'm happy to answer any more questions if you'd like me to get into further detail.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'll just add to that, not only Wasaga Distribution, but Wasaga Resources and Geosands. So that is three corporations that are operating the exact same way that this will, and not to mention all of the municipal service corporations and other corporations that are already in place with many municipalities across the province, if not the country. One thing I think to be clear on is that municipalities, municipal corporations are not to be for-profit corporations. And so in order to do so and to meet the standards within the legislation, this is why municipal service corporations are set up, so as that municipalities can create dollars outside of tax dollars for their taxpayers. And so it's important to note that as well. All right, we'll go back to the floor now to questions, and I'm going to go back to Councillor White because he already spoke once, and then I'll come, because I'm assuming this is a follow-up, Councillor, to your previous questions.
Well, it is, and I just want to thank you for explaining that, because I feel like that's the crux of the thing that people don't understand. We're not using taxpayers' money to build a hotel. The town cannot profit in its internal structure as a municipal corporation, that we have to form a corporation to create profit. The profit that comes in from these things pays for things that we want to do in the community, like services. So I just really want to thank you for driving that point home, because I feel like that's the biggest question I get from people, is they don't understand why we create this. And we have the other one too with the Wasaga Entertainment and like you said, Geosans, why we have these corporations and why they exist and why we can't just do these things internally. And that just nails it on the head. And I just want to say thanks, because that's the biggest issue.
Thank you, Councillor. And now we'll go to Councillor Timms.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a question about the Engage Wasaga platform. While only 4 people commented, are we aware of how many visits to that page?
So through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Timms, my understanding is that there were only 5 individuals that were following this matter. And to be very clear, should council decide to proceed today, we're not going to stop listening. We will continue to listen. We will continue to engage the public. A lot of the questions and comments that I received from the 4 individuals and from Mr. Farkas pertain to the quality of bathrooms and restaurants and parking, etc. We can absolutely continue to have those conversations. That should not stop. People need to have their voice heard as the plan unfolds. So we will continue to listen. We're not shutting down engagement just because council decides to adopt the MSC or not.
Thank you. And as a follow-up, can someone dispel the rumor that council gets paid to be board members on this board, as well as our other Wasaga Sports and Entertainment?
So through Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to dispel that rumor. I have not heard that rumor, quite frankly, but there is no financial compensation for sitting on either the Wasaga Beach Sports and Entertainment or the potential to sit on the beachfront MSC.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Belanger?
Yeah, through the mayor, I can tell you that although I'm not a real estate expert, I've certainly dealt with contracts most of my life, and I have been on council through many of these different contracts that we have pursued in the development of our beachfront. And I can assure the public that the current contract that is being pursued and the process is incredibly superior to what had actually been approved, and land sales occurred. Fortunately, because a development agreement couldn't be reached, we were able to set that aside. But I also want to talk to the track record. These continued things about on social media about us putting taxpayers' money at risk. We went through a very challenging budget process, and our town team has done an amazing job at coming up with a budget that this year that is truly impressive and in the taxpayers' favor. And furthermore, securing $131 million of provincial funding in just 2 short years. You talk about benefiting the taxpayer. This is not a team that is irresponsibly putting taxpayers' dollars at risk. We have an amazing track record, not just about the speed in which we are getting things done, but the quality of the work that's being achieved. So I congratulate our team and our leadership, and I am certainly ready to support going forward today.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. Councillor Ego?
thank you, and through your worship, I would just like to speak to the structure of the board that I hope will sit well with the people, that it is made up of your councillors that you elected to put in to work with for 4 years. So therefore, you aren't dealing with new people coming onto the town that doesn't know what's going on. So you're already dealing with people that you elected to do a job for you. And I would hope that would give you faith in this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
If I
Councillor
could-
DeLeo? Oh, I'm sorry,
If I could-
before you go,
yeah.
Andrew?
If I could, Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor Eagle, that's an important point to emphasize. When you set up a municipal services corporation, you have the option of a variety of structures. Wasaga Distribution is arm's length from council. You do have members of council sit on it, but there are also independent third-party residents or experts that sit on that board. In the interest of transparency, we have said this would be made up of only members of council, so that again, we think this is the closest to council, the closest to the people, and also that we would have regular updates through council. So there should not be any surprises about any of the activity that's going on. It is not arm's length. It's held close to council. That is the most transparent way to set up a municipal services corporation, and we've done that very deliberately.
Thank you very much, Andrew. And I'll just add to that. And the reason that we have done that is because it is made up of council. Any meeting of all members or a majority of council has to be a public meeting open to the public. And so this will ensure that. Where if you look at Wasaga Distribution or Geosands and many other municipal corporations that aren't set up that way, they do not have to be open to the public. Or open to public participation. It's exactly why we've done it the way we've done it, using council, so as that there is an open door, an open window for the public to see what's happening here. All right, Councillor DeLeo?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. This is more of a curiosity question. It was mentioned many times, like several times during this conversation, about other municipalities having municipal services corporations. Can you give me an example of one that is similar build to what we're doing on the beach, like in the Simcoe area? Because you mentioned all across Ontario and Canada. Is there anything similar in County of Simcoe, a build on the beach, like their beach? Is there something similar?
I would think, Councillor, sorry, Andrew, I think, Councillor, if you want to hold it specifically to a beach, I'm sure there are. Perhaps maybe Mississauga may have a corporation that looks after their waterfront. But Wasaga Beach is the longest freshwater beach in the world and is very unique. When we say there are municipal corporations across the province, and if not the country, municipal corporations are set up for many different reasons. Just happens that this one is to deal with our beachfront redevelopment, and this particular project was Sunray. You could have multiples, but to be able to give you a primary or a specific example of another community like Wasaga Beach dealing with what we're dealing with on our beachfront, we could look for that. But for municipal corporations, give you all the examples in the world. Andrew, go ahead.
Yeah, so Mr. Mayor, again, Wasaga Beach is unique, but I will give you examples of waterfront communities that have set up municipal services corporations. Waterfront Toronto has been an MSC for decades and decades. Used to be called Build Toronto. So that is actually an MSC that involves not only the municipality, but the province and the federal government to drive redevelopment of key stretches of Toronto's waterfront. Burlington has had a municipal services corporation redeveloping their waterfront for decades. Hamilton has a municipal services corporation redeveloping their waterfront. I could go on and on and on. These are not unique. Innisfil, I believe, has one. I believe Bradford, West Gwillimbury has one. You can set up MSCs for various uses. If memory serves, I believe Bradford uses theirs for their utility. So it's not limited to development, but the most common use is for development. Very commonplace across the country. Toronto probably has the most because, again, they use it for all their parking structures in addition to redevelopment. Mississauga, when I worked there previously, was looking into creating one. I can't recall if they actually formalized it, but they were looking to create one to redevelop their waterfront. It's a very commonplace tool. It is deliberately created by the province of Ontario through the Municipal Act for these types of situations. That's why the province encourages it. You're not allowed to make a profit. You are not allowed to enter into joint ventures without an MSC being created. It's a tool that the province anticipated and that they encourage us to use. So again, nothing out of the normal here. We've had one in place with Wasaga Distribution for many decades.
Thank you,
Okay.
Andrew. Anything further, Councillor DeLeo?
Nope, that's good. Thank you.
Please remember to put your hand down. All right, other questions or comments from members of council? All right, I just have a few. I think it's also important to point out that any of these types of corporations or deals are, looked after for the town of Wasaga Beach by the best law firms in the country. We have high-priced lawyers that are looking after setting up this corporation and ensuring that the town of Wasaga Beach and our taxpayers are protected, and that it is done right and it is done in such a way that benefits the municipality first and foremost. This isn't just some staff sitting around a table with a member or two of council trying to figure out how we should set this up. This takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and some significant dollars to do so. The information that you see out there, that this is costing taxpayers. Raising Beach Drive is costing taxpayers. It's important to note that the raising of Beach Drive not only now will be paid for with $10.95 million from the province, and some people would say, well, there's only one taxpayer, and I couldn't agree more. But I would say to that, as I've said before, I would much rather that the province take the tax dollars we send them and reinvest them in our community versus any other community. So this is a very good thing and a very positive thing. With respect to the remaining costs on raising Beach Drive, and the raising of Beach Drive is not this council's brainchild. This has been talked about for several councils and was significantly implemented with the last council. But it's being paid for through DCs, development charges. It's not tax dollars. The developers, in paying development charges on every unit they build and sell, not only here but throughout this community, those funds are put into reserves, and those reserves are very specific, and those funds can only be used for specific reasons. We can't just pull funds from a reserve to use for any willy-nilly thing it is we want to use it for. So the DCs will pay for the rest of the raising of Beach Drive and the infrastructure, along with developers who are also contributing to, over and above the DCs, to some of the infrastructure. So it's important to be clear. We're not raising your taxes to pay for Beach Drive. That comes from the development charges that are charged on every property throughout this municipality, every build as we move forward, put into reserves to be used for these types of things. We'll now draw down the reserves, use those funds, and DCs will continue to build the reserves back up. The great news here, again, the province with $10.95 million, that now leaves $10.95 million of reserves that we can use for infrastructure perhaps somewhere else in our community, that we don't have to worry about finding those dollars from taxpayers or from taxes. And I'll just touch that, council being elected. This isn't new in this term of council or in this country. You elect governments and people to government to represent you and to do a job for you for a term of time. In this case, it's 4 years. And I am proud and I am grateful for the people who voted and elected this council. And this council is progressive. We're moving forward. We're moving forward much faster than previous councils, including my previous council. I don't mind sitting here saying I wish we had been able to move faster, because we would not be sitting here today. This would all be done and built out. And it's the few people out there who want to continue to talk about, how much consultation we haven't done. But they never talk about the consultation we have done. about now, take more time, take more time. Well, I can tell you that I hear from taxpayers in this community every day, every week, every month, to get moving. Enough is enough. We have taken all the time in the world. This all started back in, 2007, when the fire happened. People think that's when this all began. Well, I can tell you it was long before that. We have a video out there on social media put out by a longtime member, born and raised, I believe, resident, Mike Miller, where, our longest-serving mayor, Mayor Walter Borthwick, was on, at that time, CKVR, which is now CTV Barrie, talking about, they were at the auction and the sale of all the properties and whatnot of Playland Park and the Midway and the rides, and talking about, bringing a casino and a hotel. And his words were, although there's melancholy here and some sadness, this is actually us moving forward. So this goes back for decades, folks. And I'm proud to sit here as the mayor and with this council and be moving forward. And there are always going to be people out there for political aspirations and reasons, or that don't agree with the plan. There are things that happen that governments and municipalities do that I don't agree with. But I don't make a point to go out and mislead the public and push misinformation to create something that just simply isn't there. So I would encourage all members of council to support this, and let's move forward, and let's get this all done, and let's create a Wasaga Beach that is a better place to live, work, learn, and play for all of our residents. We have had nothing but great news throughout this term of council, through hard work and dedication of council and the team. And when I say the team, I talk about every single individual that works for the town of Wasaga Beach. I talk about the lawyers. I talk about, the experts and professionals in design. There's a lot of work that's gone into this. And not just in this term of council, but for previous councils, several of them. We're now at a point in time where it's time to just move forward and get it done. And now there are going to be people who say, oh, you're just moving forward because you want to get it done. Well, I'll say, yes, I do want to get it done. I believe council wants to get it done. And I believe we've been open and transparent. We've had tons of consultations over the years, including this past year. And now in this year. And we can never make everybody happy. And so I encourage everyone to vote in favor and to move this forward. With that, I will read the recommended motion.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, could I
Sorry,
add two
please,
points?
Andrew, go ahead, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to add 2 quick points. I support everything you just said. I wanted to also remind the community that trying to bring a hotel goes back decades. Mayor Patterson put out an RFP trying to bring a hotel to our beachfront. We now have something that is real. So this is not new, that we've been trying to do this for decades. The one point I also wanted to mention, I don't often jump into social media, but on the weekend I had to, because there was a comment being made that the taxpayers are on the hook for an additional $20 to $30 million in infrastructure services above and beyond Beach Drive. That is absolutely incorrect. It is not true. So I wanted that point to be very clear to the community. There is not this magic $20 to $30 million that we're secretly hiding somewhere. That is incorrect and false. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so worth pointing out, you're right, going back many years and trying to find a hotel. And in previous councils, where councils were offering Beach Area 2 lands for free for a developer to come forward and build something. So, we talk about the purchase, we talk about the sale now and the profitability that is going to be there. It wasn't long ago that councils were looking to give this land, private beachfront land, away for free and couldn't attract someone here to do something. There's been a lot of hard work here by a lot of people, and I believe we've got some great partners here, and it's time to move forward. The recommended motion is that the report titled Municipal Services Corporation Beachfront Development to the Council meeting of February 13th, 2025 be received, and that Council adopt the business case for Build Wasaga as presented at the January 30th, 2025 Council meeting, and that Council direct staff to proceed to incorporate Build Wasaga as a municipal services corporation. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Deputy Mayor Snell. Madam Clerk, could you
Thank you, Your Worship.
call the question on this?
Thank you. Because this item was pulled and would typically be considered under matters for consideration, we are going to proceed with a recorded vote accordingly. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Councillor Ego.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor.
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Councillor White.
In favor.
Mayor Smith. In favor. Carries unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, you're muted.
Thank you very much. Now moving on to item number 9, government relations, the Allenwood Beach vesting order verbal update, and I will turn to our General Manager of Legislative Services and Development Services, our Clerk, Nicole, for an update. Nicole?
Thank you, Your Worship. On February 4th, 2025 this year, the Justice hearing the vesting order for Allenwood Beach did agree, and the Allenwood Beach is now confirmed as ownership of the town, which is amazing news. So next steps for administration is we have reached out to Ontario Parks. We'll be continuing discussions on operations and maintenance of that beach, and we will be informing the public of all updates on our Engage Wasaga page, and we encourage everybody to subscribe so that they're up to date.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk, and I think it's important to point out that, yes, the judge did find in favor of Wasaga Beach, and it's clear that the town of Wasaga Beach owns this land, and it will now be registered properly and accordingly. But that does not change anything with respect to us looking at the different parcels of land that we are not sure whether we own it, don't own it, or who does own it, and there are many that we know who owns it, and we're looking at that. So I know that I've received a couple of inquiries on this, and I will say that staff are now going to go and look and dig in further in conjunction with the Ontario Parks and a land surveyor, and we will, let the public know when we have substantial and a good understanding as to our next steps with respect to private property versus public property, so on and so forth. And what I would caution the public of is that, if you don't own the land, it doesn't matter who else owns the land. You should not be on it unless it is public property and unless you're absolutely sure of that. And what I can say is that if we're not sure, I'm not so sure that any individual can be sure. And so give us some time. We're working through this. This covers lands from one end of Wasaga Beach right to the other end along our beachfront area, and be rest assured that staff are working diligently to try and clarify and make sure we can clean up everything possible as quickly as possible. And we will make the public aware of any of that as soon as we know. We do have, moving on now then to item number, any questions or comments from members of council on the vesting order? All right, then moving on to item number...
Your Worship, sorry, I had my hand up here.
I'm sorry, Councillor, I didn't see your hand there. Go ahead.
That's okay, thank you. And through Your Worship, while I appreciate that this vesting order is as a mere legal technicality just to establish ownership that was somewhat in dispute, this doesn't mean that this is going to be a development situation. The purpose of this is to establish ownership of the beach. There's no plan to change this from a beach. Am I correct here? I just want to make 100% sure that this vesting order was there just as a legal technicality and nothing to do with setting the stage for future development.
Thank you, Councillor. Great question. Mr. CAO?
100% can confirm that, Councillor White. There is no intention to develop Allenwood between Eastdale and Edwards. The point of this vesting order was to really address issues of liability concern. We had concern that the province was operating on the beach without a proper operating agreement. As the owner of the property, that exposed the municipality to liability. But please rest assured, there is no desire. I honestly don't even know that we could do it if we wanted to, because of NVCA issues. So, but no intentions to redevelop any portion of this municipality of those lands.
Your Worship, if I may.
Go ahead, Councillor White.
Thank you, Your Worship. Again, maybe to you, Mr. CAO. Can you remind everybody watching why the town purchased this? I believe I received this question from a former member of council through social media. I was wondering why the town purchased this property. What was the intent of the sale back in, I believe it was 2012?
Yeah, that's correct. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the previous owner, Mrs. Betty Whittington, was actually the daughter of Mr. Trace, who was the person that actually created the plan of subdivision for that area of Wasaga Beach. She held ownership to Allenwood Beach between Eastdale and Edwards. She approached the municipality when her father passed, and quite frankly, she didn't want the liability that comes with owning that property. So she sold it for a nominal fee, essentially gifting it to the municipality. It was 200 and odd change, that 200,000 and odd change. So it essentially was her just trying to remove her exposure to trying to have to police all of that property and deal with Ontario Parks. So that's why the opportunity came up, and the municipality wisely took the opportunity to acquire it.
Also important to note that although the town of Wasaga Beach owns these lands, the vast majority of these lands are within the park boundary and are regulated by the provincial park. So another thing worth noting. All right, there's no other further questions or comments on that. We'll move on to item number 10, which is staff reports. And the following reports have been pulled and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately, and that's items 10.4 and 10.6. Are there any other comments from council or staff on the consent reports? Councillor DeLeo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a comment. I have concerns with the study of the Green Fleet Strategy Section Report, which Deloitte Canada presented on November 14th council meeting. Now I know this update for today is for information only, so I'm going to withhold my comments until a final recommendation comes before council. So I just wanted to let that be known. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeLeo. Deputy Mayor Snell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, we're seeing lots of excitement happening down at the beachfront in terms of some demolition of buildings. And I was just wondering if Director Lalonde could provide an update for both council and the community in regards to demolition.
That'd be a great idea. General Manager Lalonde.
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through you, Mayor Smith. Yes, as everyone has probably seen by now, we initiated the demolition this week for the funnel tunnel. Our contractor has been working hard over the last several weeks, just salvaging and removing the internal amenities and salvaging what they can out of the other buildings. But the funnel tunnel has been removed, and in terms of their staging, their intentions are to move over to Playland parking lot, which will be the next mobilization location, and you'll look at the Playland washroom facility to come down next. We understand following that will be the Copa or South Beach, and then they'll work their way westerly towards the Dart, and then obviously the fire hall, the old fire hall, as the last building to come down. Weather has played a factor, as you can appreciate, in terms of how quickly they're getting their efforts underway. Our goal is to have things done by the end of March, but certainly we're confident they'll be well complete and restored before we mobilize any general contractor down there. But we're anxious to see it move forward, and we will be taking photographs and video evidence of the demolition as it does come down. So we'll have some historical knowledge and files available for us to compile later on. I know Sandra's working on that program. So, yeah, exciting times, and we're looking forward to the snow going away and melting so we can get underway with construction. But demolition is proceeding as anticipated.
Thank you, Kevin. Supplemental, Deputy Mayor Snell?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. And I just wanted to know, driving down there often, I really commend the demolition crew. They are extracting every element out of there and repurposing it, recycling it, selling it, salvaging, saving it from going to a landfill, it seems. So I really appreciate the good folks doing that work down there. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Snell. Councillor Timms?
Thank you. Oh. Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Your Worship. And further to what Deputy Mayor Snell just mentioned, could you elaborate a little bit on the DARD and what we'll be able to repurpose from there? I know there's a lot of people that have a big soft spot for that building, and understandably so, and are really worried about valuable mementos being wasted somehow.
Certainly, through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Timms, there is provisions within the contract to salvage part of the truss infrastructure of the building, as well as some of the flooring. We do have storage available that our manager of Beachfront Properties has set aside, and we will be working with the contractor to put aside some of those elements. And then in terms of what we do with that next, I'm sure we'll collaborate with the community and come together with some art form to reinstate that in one of our land holdings in the future. But we are looking to salvage truss work and the flooring out there. So in terms of anything else, there is really not a lot left within that building, but those are the two items that we have included within the contract itself.
Thank you, Kevin. Andrew?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you to Councillor Timms. I think many of us who've grown up in Wasaga Beach have very fond memories of going to the DARD, oftentimes after a couple drinks or a couple cocktails, and our view of that building may not actually connect with the reality of the shape that it's actually in. We took council out to tour the building for the sole purpose to let you see the state of it. There, quite frankly, isn't a lot that can be salvaged. And the quality of materials that were used to actually build the DARD were not high quality. If it was, we would be trying to salvage everything. So we're taking some flooring just for the sake of having the memento. The flooring is not high quality. It's not being saved because it's high quality material. We're taking a piece of the stage for the same reason. The Bailey trusses that were used to create the roof have some historical significance. Those were created by the soldiers from Base Borden in the early 1900s. So that's why we wanted to keep a piece of that, because it's kind of cool, actually. And we'll work to repurpose that as a public art display. But the actual mementos, it's just not there the way that I think some people may think it is. But we've managed to save a couple signs, the Bailey trusses, and some pieces of flooring. So we're doing the best we can, but again, I hope that answers your question.
All right, thank you, Andrew. And, I think if you've been around Wasaga Beach for any length of time, you certainly have a warm spot for the DARD. I can tell you, growing up here, although the DARD was never had accommodations, I might have slept there one night. But I have fond memories of the DARD going back to the 70s, and I know many others do as well. But what I can tell you is that the DARD has been changed and renovated, and some with or without permit over the years. It is really nothing today what it was even 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. And so, it's again a point in time where it's bittersweet. I was down there the other day, and they were tearing down the funnel tunnel, which is not an old building at all. But it was still a bittersweet moment to know that all of that history is going away. But we've, throughout the process here so far, we've kept the Dard lands until we can decide what and who and how we want to move forward with hopefully maybe recreating something. I'm sure it won't be the exact same, but that's something that council can and will be looking at over the coming months and years, and I'm sure we'll come up with something that is very suitable. But I understand the sentimental value to that beachfront, that's for certain. All right, if there's no other questions or comments, the following consent list items under staff reports and all the recommendations contained therein be adopted, excluding items pulled, and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately. Mover and a seconder for this, please. Councillor White, Councillor Timms, all in favor? That carries unanimously. Moving on to item number 11, correspondence items, and the following correspondence items have been pulled and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately, and that is items number 11.1 and 11.2. Are there any other comments from council or staff on the correspondence items? Seeing none, the motion is that the following consent list items under correspondence be received for information, excluding items pulled, and moved to matters for consideration to be voted on separately. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor White and seconded by Councillor Belanger. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Moving on to minutes of boards and committees, and we have no minutes there for today. And then item number 12, which is matters for consideration. And so we'll start with the installation of electric vehicle charging stations at the Public Works Yard, and this was pulled by Councillor DeLeo. Councillor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bear with me on this one. Okay. Now, I pulled this item from the agenda due to the executive summary's indication that it aligns with the recommendations from the Green Fleet Strategy Report conducted by Deloitte and presented to Council on November the 14th for information. I do not support the adoption of electric vehicles in our town. This report proposes the installation of 2 charging stations at the Public Works Yard in anticipation for future electric vehicle purchases. However, the financial implications of these recommendations will place a significant burden on Wasaga Beach taxpayers, both now and in the years ahead. The cost of purchasing electric vehicles, along with their insurance, which is higher than those of the gas-powered vehicles, will add to this financial strain. Now, let me begin by saying EVs are not as eco-friendly and safe as one is made to believe. They are unnecessary at this point. Officials are sounding the alarm about the grave dangers posed by the lithium-ion batteries found in electric vehicles. It is any surprise that ferry companies and underground car parks are banning EVs. Some insurance companies are refusing to insure them, and EV owners are struggling to sell them on the secondhand market. How long will they be before they're being outbanned? Now, this is very interesting. At least 36 electric vehicles caught fire due to Hurricane Ian in 2022, with some of the fires erupting while the EVs were being towed. In one case, a fire truck used up all its water in just 10 minutes trying to put out an electric vehicle fire, requiring them to run a fire hose on the car for another hour. The flame was eventually put out, but it reignited a few hours later, underscoring how complicated these types of fires can be to extinguish. While a traditional vehicle can take between 200 and 400 gallons of water to put out, electric vehicles often require upwards of 6,600 gallons to extinguish. Now, I find it very interesting that one session of a 30-minute fast charge is equivalent energy to fully power 280 houses on the grid. While I acknowledge that the town has secured funding to cover part of the costs for these stations, the ongoing expenses, including maintenance, will continue to impact residents. Additionally, I understand the casino funds have been identified to cover the town's $55,000 share of the cost. However, I believe these funds could be allocated more effectively elsewhere in our community. I would like to ask Kevin, I have a question for Kevin though. whether the installation costs for these charging stations are included in the $55,000 or are they an additional expense? Kevin?
Thank you for your question. Through you, Your Worship, the total cost, the total estimated cost for the equipment was 90, with an estimate of 50,000 for installation. So that's $140,000 total. We anticipate if and when we're successful with the funding program, we'd receive, I believe it was $85,000 to offset that 140, which will leave us with an unbudgeted expenditure of 55,000. So that 55,000 is what the approval is for today, and that in the treasurer could confirm, but I don't recall it coming from casino reserves. It was in your surplus or general public works reserves.
Thank you, Kevin. Further comments or questions, Councillor DeLeo?
It was in the report. The report that I read said it can come out of the casino funds. So that's where I got that from.
I'm going to look to our CFO, Jocelyn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I did add that to the report as an option that council could consider. However, the discussion that the director or Jim of Public Works and myself had did not include the casino discussion. I did add that as an additional financial option for council's consideration.
All right,
Thank
so to
you.
be clear, it's just an option. All right, any other questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Snell?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to clarify as well, General Manager Lalonde, these would be for public facing. So this is also like seeing that the grant is coming through RTO 7. So they're looking at ways to service the traveling public and tourists in this region with these types of vehicles. Is that correct?
Through you, Your Worship, to Deputy Mayor Snell, the location will be dependent on, I guess, we need a transformer, we need to come into the building and then extend the services out to the facilities. We're hopeful that the level 2 chargers are public facing. We haven't come up with that final design yet, but certainly there will be opportunity for them to park alongside them. But the facility itself will be in the yard, but the yard is open Monday to Friday, 8 to 4:30. So there is that public opportunity as well as staff opportunity to charge. But after hours, the yard does lock, so that's unlikely to be accessible after hours at this point. But we're still in the site plan design stage.
Thank you, Kevin. Councillor Belanger.
Yes, thank you through the mayor. Of course, I'm on the climate action team as council representative, and I will certainly tell you that although I respect differences of opinions about electric vehicles, there is just as many comparative reports that are very pro the use of electronic vehicles. And the main thing is that greenhouse gas reduction is a requirement. We just need to look at global warming and some of the catastrophic costs for severe weather events. And we can sit here and say that let's not adapt or mitigate, but we also have a very large provincial forest. And as time progresses and as temperatures increase more, those dangers could be a danger to our residents. And again, all I'm saying is certainly you've done your research and you have picked reports that are very favorable to your position, but there are many, many reports out there that are very favorable to moving to electric vehicles. So I just want to make the public aware, and if we went out there and asked 100 people, we would certainly get varying opinions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Belanger. Any other questions or comments from members of council or staff? All right, seeing none, I think the important thing in this case to note is that there's a significant grant available here. And I'm a big believer that if we are planning to do things within the community, and we can receive grant monies to help offset those costs for the taxpayer, that then the time to do it is when those grants are available, whenever we can. And so I encourage council to keep that in mind. We were concerned about taxpayers' money, and I fully respect and understand that. So in this case, even if you don't necessarily agree with it, you know, the fact that there's significant funding there possibly available, we should be trying to lessen the burden on our local taxpayers by using that outside funding. All right, we do have a recommended motion then that the report title Installation of Electric Vehicle Charging Stations at the Public Works Yard to the council meeting of February 13th, 2025 be received, and that staff be authorized to proceed with the installation of electric vehicle EV charging stations at the Public Works Yard in accordance with the procurement policy. And the council approved a project estimate in the amount of $140,000, excluding HST, and that council approve an unbudgeted expenditure of approximately $55,000 in year surplus or general reserves, if required, to cover any additional costs not covered by the RTO7 funding program. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell, seconded by Councillor Belanger. All in favor? Oh, sorry, this has been pulled, so recorded vote. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Councillor DeLeo.
Opposed.
Councillor Ego.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor?
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Councillor White.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor.
That carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And now moving on to the next item, which is the City of Peterborough Amendment to Bill 242, Safer Municipalities Act. And again, this was pulled by Councillor DeLeo. Councillor DeLeo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to express my support for the City of Peterborough's letter regarding Bill 242, the Safer Municipalities Act 2024. Our parks and open spaces are essential to building strong, connected communities. They serve as critical infrastructure, providing residents with safe, shared spaces for recreation and well-being. Ensuring that these areas remain accessible and secure for everyone is a responsibility we must take seriously. When the Honorable Paul Calandra, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, introduced Bill 242, it included amendments to the Trespass to Property Act, granting municipalities the authority to remove encampments from parks and open spaces. I firmly believe that enforcement must be accompanied by adequate shelter options. Simply displacing individuals without proper support will only push encampments into other areas of the city or town without addressing the core issue. No one should be left to struggle on the streets, especially those who are physically or mentally unable to care for themselves. I strongly encourage the province to increase funding to municipalities, ensuring the safe, dignified shelter spaces are available for those in need. A compassionate and proactive approach is necessary to create lasting solutions that support both our communities and our most vulnerable residences. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeLeo. Any other questions or comments from council on this matter? All right, seeing none, we do have the recommended motion that the Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to turn to, we don't have a motion here on paper. I'll turn to our clerk. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll put a motion on the table for council consideration that the Council for the Town of Wasaga Beach support the City of Peterborough in their request to the province to amend Bill 242 to clearly define a workable standard for shelter space for the purpose of municipalities' jurisdiction to enforce its standards regulating or prohibiting encampments in its parks and open space. And further, that a copy of the resolution be forwarded to the City of Peterborough, Honorable Doug Ford, Premier, Honorable Paul Calandra, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and the AMO.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. You've heard the question. Councillors, could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor DeLeo and seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? Recorded vote, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Belanger.
In favor.
Councillor DeLeo.
In favor.
Councillor Ego.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Snell.
In favor?
Councillor Timms.
In favor.
Councillor White.
In favor.
Mayor Smith?
In favor?
Carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And moving on to the next item, which is the February 5th, 2025 County of Peterborough, County of Peterborough proposed U.S. tariffs on Canadian goods. And this was pulled by Councillor White. Councillor?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I think this is very important discussion to have at the municipal level. I think it's very important to use this opportunity to reevaluate our shop local promises and campaigns as the country is united into supporting domestically procured and fabricated products. I highly recommend that the town not only send a letter of support to this one, but also look internally to find ways to support Canadian-run businesses and Canadian manufacturing.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Andrew?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Councillor White, I agree wholeheartedly. At the leadership team table this week, we have begun an internal review. I did send out a note to all staff a couple days ago indicating that we should be looking to purchase Canadian as much as possible. But we're going to actually dig a little bit deeper and look at all of our procurement, all of our purchasing, and try and understand how we can support Canadian. I hope, again, that this is something we should be doing in the long term, but I hope the threats that we're hearing from south of the border don't materialize. But again, we have to be prepared. And anything we can do to support local business and Canadian business, we should always be doing that. So those efforts are underway.
Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. Councillor DeLeo.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm all in favor for supporting Canadians, especially local businesses. But I think a lot of people are not seeing another picture here. The catalyst, for me, is the provincial and the federal government. No one is talking about how the taxes that they're imposing on these Canadian businesses are affecting people from purchasing Canadian products. Our Canadian products, let's face it, they're very expensive as compared to purchasing from the US or from China. So if someone has, they're on a budget and there's something that Canadian sells for $100, yet they can get it on Amazon for $30. Well, they have to weigh what's in their pocketbook. So unless, no one talks about the carbon tax. It's going up again April 1st. So I'll give you an example here. So effective carbon levies rise regularly to give people and businesses time to adjust. So that tells you how high they're going. Canada's carbon levy started in 2019 at $20 per ton and went up by $10 a year to $50 in 2022. It's now increasing by $15 a year until 2030, when it will reach $170 per ton. So we're going from $20 to $170 per ton. And as of April 1st, it will rise to $95 on your bill. Now, the carbon federal tax has increased more than 17 cents per liter of gas and 15 cents per cubic meter of natural gas as of April 2024. Now, I know on my last gas bill, my charge was $390. Well, to my shock, $105 was carbon tax. That's ridiculous. The carbon tax will cost the average household between $377 and $911 between 2024 and 2025, even after the rebates, according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer. And I just found out all the businesses that got rebates, carbon rebates, they're taxable. So that makes no sense to me when they say they will not be taxable. It's not for households, only for businesses. Now, 50 sample farm operators paid a total of $329,644 for 1 month in 2023 in carbon tax. This increase contributes to food price inflation and negative impact on food affordability in Canada. Using a large empirical model of the Canadian economy, a study found that $170 per ton carbon tax by 2030 will cause the economy, which is the GDP, to shrink by about 1.8%, cause a permanent loss of nearly 185,000 jobs, and reduce real incomes in every province. So this is where I think we should also be asking the government to do. Remove the carbon tax so companies can lower their prices, hire more people, and this way it can make it more affordable for Canadians to shop Canadian. So that's my little rant for this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeLeo. Next is Councillor Ego.
Thank you, and through your worship, I'm just going to bypass that one and thank Richard White for pulling this, because I agree with pulling this ask from the town, and I agree with what our CAO said out this week, that I do believe, and I'm not getting into all the politics, that it is a time for us to support Canada, our other provinces, and locally. And I'm impressed when I walked into a local store and saw the change on shelves and the promoting of what we here in Canada make and what we can use, what we have. So I strongly support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions or comments from members of council? All right, seeing none, I think I'll just comment that it's kind of sad that it takes the President of the United States to threaten big tariffs on us here in Canada for us to realize that we should be supporting Canadian first anyway. But it is what it is. And so if nothing else comes of this, at least hopefully it's opened many of our eyes to say that if and when and where we can, to Councillor DeLeo's point, people have to live based on their abilities. And so I don't begrudge anybody who buys something outside of Canada because that's all they can afford. But where you can, and I think this is what the proposed message from the city, the county of Peterborough is asking for, and we're seeing this all over the place, is that where you can, that you absolutely support Canadian products and local. And this goes, not only nationwide, but provincially, and then even locally, municipalities. We like to shop local here as well, too, but there are just some things locally that are just not affordable, and so we have to do what we have to do. But again, I just say it's not surprising, but it's surprising that it's taken something so drastic to wake us up and open our eyes to supporting our own great nation, which is the greatest nation in the world. So you have had the questions, had the debate, and I'll look to our clerk for a resolution on this. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you to Councillor White, you did mention in your speech that you were looking for direction to staff. After hearing from the CAO, are you comfortable if we just send a letter of support?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. I will provide a motion that the Council for the Town of Wasaga Beach support the County of Peterborough in their request to the province and the federal government to take additional measures to protect the interests of Ontario in any upcoming trade negotiations and remove any impediments to municipalities preferring Canadian companies and services for capital projects and other supplies. And further, that the Council for the Town of Wasaga Beach also requests the province and federal government and all municipalities to procure products and services domestically in a way to support the Canadian battles against American tariffs and the threat to our sovereignty. And further, that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the County of Peterborough, Honourable Doug Ford, Premier Honourable Paul Calandra, MMAH, and AMO.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. You've heard the question. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Councillor Ego. All in favor? Oh, sorry, it is a recorded vote. Yes, Madam Clerk?
Councillor Belanger?
In favor.
Councillor DeLeo?
In favor.
Councillor Ego?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Snell?
In favor.
Councillor Timms?
In favor.
Councillor White?
In favor.
Mayor Smith?
In favor.
Carries unanimously.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And moving on to item number 13, recommendations arising from boards and committees, and we have no recommendations there today. Item number 14 is council requests for staff reports. Council, you all have seen the list. Is there any questions or comments on this? All right, seeing none, we'll move along then to item number 15, notices of motions, which we have none today. And item number 16 is closed session. That pursuant to the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, the next portion of the February 13th, 2025 council meeting will move into closed session to consider the following matters. 17.3.1, human resource matter. 17.3.2, human resource matter. 17.3.3, committee appointments. And 17.3.4, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land. Could I have a mover and a seconder for this, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Snell, seconded by Councillor DeLeo. All in favor? That carries unanimously. We'll take a 10-minute bio break, Council, and then we'll move into closed session. So please be back no later than 5 after.
Okay, Your Worship, we're live.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Clerk, and welcome back, everybody. We're just coming out of closed session before we adjourn council, and I'll look to our clerk for a rise and report from the closed session. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council entered closed session on February 13th, 2025 at 12:07 p.m. to hear the following matters. 17.3.2, Human Resource Matter in accordance with Section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act. 17.3.3, Committee Appointments in accordance with Section 239(2)B. 17.3.4, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land in accordance with Section 239(2)C. As a result of those discussions, staff direction was provided in accordance with the Municipal Act. Council also heard item 17.3.1, Human Resource Matter in accordance with Section 239(2)B. As a result of that discussion, there's nothing further to report. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. And we now have bylaws under number 18, and the following bylaws be received, have been deemed to have been read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed. Could I have a mover and a seconder for that, please? Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Councillor White. All in favor? That carries unanimously, and this meeting is adjourned. Have a good afternoon, everybody. Drive safe.